So yes, is this true? Something in the subject, so-called, that I seek to share with my students. Again, I've shared with you why I call it a subject, the so-called subject, because we want to transform what is to our students a subject for school that you have to study. We want to transform that into a reality, into something beautiful and scary, because it speaks to our lives in a way which is both supportive, affirming on the one hand, as well as challenging and undermining on the other, because it offers us a very different picture, as well as a similar picture to what we already know. Yes, our subject right now is not real for our students. There's a gap between the school and the curriculum, as John Dewey calls it, or between the student, and the school, or say the curriculum, between the student and the curriculum. Or, as Martin Buber puts it, there's a gap between the person of today and the Jewish Bible, or Midrash, Talmud, Hanukkah, or whatever it is, Judaism. The religious experience, the religious perspectives that Judaism includes, expresses, witnesses to, and explores. So the question is, what in our so-called subject matter can matter, really can matter, can be true. Now, one might say, okay, Steve, this is all very good, this philosophy. I mean, you're asking us to get rather deeply into the intellectual life, into philosophy. But, I mean, I'm only teaching kindergarten, or first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade. So it doesn't really apply. But it does. Just as much, the same, as ridiculous as this sounds, as bizarre as this sounds, to the same degree as one must delve into these questions of theology, of anthropology. What is a human being? What is the divine? What is the psychological issues? If you're going to teach Shakespeare's, plays, you got to know. You got to be reading stuff and seeing movies and thinking hard about anything to do with the human psychology, philosophy of life, human nature. Politics, everything. And the same because Shakespeare addresses those questions. That's what it's all about, through stories about certain people, that are not historical, or sometimes there's kernels from history are taken, but then it's developed through the imagination of in this case, the playwright, the dramatist. Louise Rosenblatt, in her book Literature as Exploration, talks about this. First published in 1938. She was way ahead of her time. And it's addressed to teachers, teachers of literature. She's not talking about Jewish education or Judaism, but it's immediately applied. It's the same thing. She says teachers, of Shakespeare or literature have to seek to share their own response to the literature, in-depth response that they're sharing with their students, and help their students to share their responses to the literature. But that means about the life questions that are raised by literature. And the Bible is literature. I mean, it's from God, but I mean, it's not from God directly. It's biyad Moshe, through people, as much as they could glimpse, as much as they could overhear, eavesdrop into the divine mind of the universe. They reflect something of the divine, but I mean, It isn't like some Cecil B. DeMille movie, Moshe, Moshe, Steve, Steve. This isn't, and it's not in. Is it in dreams? I mean, really. In Judaism, however, you found in a Chabad site. In Judaism, however, there is considerable amount of literature on dreams. This is true, with different ideas. There's debate about the nature of dreams among the rabbis in the Talmud and the Midrash. But also, one must know how to read the Bible, Shakespeare, Midrash, not in a literal way. The key is how to read in a metaphoric way. We had that difficulty in the film A Serious Man. You were reading it literally. Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if, what it was like to be, in the Midwest in the United States in the 1960s. But that's not what it's about. Shakespeare also is about King Lear or Romeo and Juliet in, the 1600s in Italy, in Florence, Verona or something. But that's not what it's about, really. It's a story that takes place in a certain time and place, usually different than our own. Science fiction, they didn't have then. Science fiction happens in the future to other people. But it's about issues of our lives. It's about ourselves. And so this is challenging. How to read biblical texts, rabbinic texts, philosophy, literature. But But okay, it's true. There's a considerable amount written on dreams in the rabbinic tradition, which seem to reflect a totally different view. Okay. In Jewish thought, dreams not only have significance, but they can be even out-of-body experiences receiving important messages to the person. All right. But what does that mean? What does it mean, out-of-body? Out-of-body. What does it mean, out-of-body experiences? And what does it mean, receiving important messages to the person? One theory of dreams is that indeed our unconscious is trying to tell us something about major issues, challenges, difficulties, obstacles, anxieties, challenges of the next stage of growth for us, that our dreams are trying to let us know about what's going on with that. But again, I mean, important messages to the person is that, I mean, from God in any direct sense. Of course, indirectly, the laws of the way our psyche works, the way dreams work, the way the laws of history work, etc., is everything's determined. I mean, by, yes, there's some intelligence in this universe, but it's not directed individually at me, The body is set up with, hormones and other kinds of serotonin is involved in dreams, etc. Different neuro processes, neurochemical processes. And when you say really how interesting this is, I love Disney movies. The movies you've suggested are great. And this is all fine and good, but in curriculum theory, as in all intellectual thought, serious intellectual thought, we have to watch out for generalities. Beware of generalities. The Talmud is all about this, not tolerating generalities. The Talmud wants to check it out. What could this mean? In a specific situation, let's try it. How is it different from another interpretation or reading of the same words, of the same apparent idea? Are there counter ideas, etc.? So in other words, I'm saying, okay, to get to something of depth, again, before we start thinking of our students, you're jumping the gun here. Speaking too much about, well, what about with older kids? What about with younger kids? Let's see. We could do it with movies. We could do it with a peace issue in Israel. We could do it with art, art expression. Okay, but what's the it? What's the it? What do you want to convey? Would it be good to get on the bus number 4 and switch to the 9? I don't know. Could be good. Could be lousy idea. Where do you want to go? What? And it mustn't be just in general. So, no, so I ask, you should be asking yourself, and then this is what's called curriculum deliberation, is to actually get this stuff out, to talk about it, to write about it, to share it with one another. I don't believe in God in the sense, if God means this doesn't make sense to me. I had a group of teachers once one of my friends was ill and couldn't be teaching for her that class in her course on Jewish holidays here in Israel. And she asked me if I would, so-called substitute, if I would teach the class for her. And, at one point, that was when I was more observant and with Talit Katan underneath and the black velvet kippah, though the rest of me wasn't black, but I was trying to say something about Jewish continuity, that it isn't, no one has a monopoly on that just because if you wear all black or a black velvet kippah, the claim is kind of, we're the ones that are more continuous or the only ones continuous representing authentically the continuation of the Jewish tradition. So I didn't want to concede that monopoly to one group, but at any rate, it was with secular teachers, secular people who were teachers. And at one point, towards the end, I think it was on Hanukkah or something, one of them said, well, this is all excellent, I love this, but, I don't believe in God, and this was in Hebrew. I come from a Hashomer Tza'ir background. So I said to her, okay, well, let me ask you this. What do you believe in? What do you know? What values? And right away she said, the preciousness of all human life, the dignity of all human life, the magic of nature, and etc. And she said 2 or 3 other kinds of things like that. So I said, well, I don't know if that's exactly the same as what the great religious thinkers of all religious traditions have understood and experienced what they called the divine, a reality they called the divine or God. But it's awfully close, But in other words, you said these movies are great. I love Disney movies. What is it about Disney movies that you love? What is it about them that Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid and Shrek that that are great? Get that out into specific terms. Notice one others. If I'm asked, again, teachers are always asking me, would this be a good idea? We'll show the Beauty and the Beast, and then we'll do the song, that the children from Israel's children's school of music. I would only wanted to tell you, God, about the dream and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to pack it of clues like Steve does, or whatever. I don't know. It could be, is it a good idea or a bad idea? They would say to me, teachers from all over the world. And I say, I don't know. They always are describing the method and who they're going to teach. And I say, okay. But I can't tell you if this is a good idea or bad idea until you tell me, what do you want to convey about anti-Semitism, or about prophecy, or about chapter 1 of Joshua, or about Jonah, or about dreams? What's your interpretation? What's your take on dreams? What about the character God and or when you say, what's God's dream? What do you mean by that? And again, you'll say, yeah, but I'm only teaching, not only, but I'm teaching as kindergarten or first, second, third grade, so no, but it does matter. Here's a book for children, obviously not for 4 or 5 or 6 years old, maybe not for 7-year-olds, but Hiroshima, on Hiroshima. Amazing, amazing pictures. You can see this, it's kind of dark. People are running from the burning flames, the heat of the city, in the city. Well, they're fleeing. The last page of the book. The last page of the book. Here's the picture. And here's the last page. May I read it to you? May I share it with you? Every year on August 6th, the people of Hiroshima inscribe the names of loved ones who died because of the bomb. They inscribe the names of those loved ones who died on lanterns, paper lanterns. The lanterns are lit and set adrift on the 7 rivers that flow through Hiroshima. The rivers flow slowly to the sea, carrying the lanterns in memory of those who died. Mii, who is still like a small child after all these years since the bomb, so drawing in the page before. The effects of the blast affected hormonal and other aspects of the body that are in charge of physical growth. And perhaps psychological, the growth of the psyche into adulthood as well, from all kinds of biochemical and neurological processes and that have to do with aging and maturity in brain and etc. So this is what she says. Me, this is the last, what the text says. Me, who is still like a small child after all these years, writes father on one lantern and the swallow on another, because earlier in the story, in the book, we see that there's some birds, one in particular, that also are flying quickly away from the fireball of the initial blast, and was burned as the bird was in flight, as so many others were. Her mother's hair has now turned white, and she watches sorrowfully as her daughter sets the lanterns afloat. This is the last line of the book. I don't know if you can see it. Again, it's very dark here. It can't happen again, she says, mother says to the child, if no one drops the bomb. This is critically important, fatefully important, that we don't tell lies to children. This is a key idea for the great educator. It's a drawing of mine I drew on one of my students' papers in a university course about Janusz Korczak, based on a black and white photograph of him. There's a lot not going right in the world. Yes, here's someone who cares, who reflects it. There's a lot not going right in the world. We talk about dreams and wishes, And God somehow, some human like God, getting important messages to us. Well, couldn't he have gotten some messages to the Jews of Europe to get the hell out of there? Well, I mean, many Zionists understood that the Jews in Europe are not going to be able to continue. Many others, more than Zionists, understood more or less the same thing and left for America. Well, that was God telling them, in a sense, yes? Through the brain, through the intellect that God has given us, as Maimonides calls it. Yeah. But I mean, not in some sort of, out of body or something like this, so-called mystical, experience, not some human like God. So again, it comes back to these questions of meaning, and everything, I mean, doesn't have meaning. Your question, the way you put, really, how interesting this is. I'm not sure if you were so aware that your word "really" there is very critical. It's all about that. It is all about that. As I said, is there something? What is there that is true here, or that could be seen, could be understood to be true in chapter 1 of Genesis, or in this prayer in the prayer book, or in this holiday, or in the Holocaust, or in whatever I'm so-called teach, that I want to share with my students. This is the question. The question is, really? What could be real here? I mean, is this true? How is it to be interpreted so that it could be true? And again, this is the sister. This is the Seder, Pesach Seder leader's sister who asks these questions, and then the young people, they say, "Oh, this is interesting." This goes back to questions that you raised right in the beginning of our course. Problems in your difficulties in your synagogue schools, and how do we interest young people and even adults today in Judaism? Well, I said part of it is, I mean, you're not meeting enough. There's not enough time. We have social psychological studies, right, that say, remember, I shared that with you, that you have, that's why summer camp is so successful. I mean, you have to try by every which way and trick people into devoting more time. We call it in America spending more time, but then this is a word from the marketplace. I mean, in Hebrew we say devote more time, have the retreat on the weekend, or etc. So this increases a sense of connection and commitment. But beyond that, even that won't be enough if we don't address what students can't so much express, and parents. I mean, it's not such a conscious thing, though. I mean, they can pretty well express it, but not in such detail and everything. Namely, what's the it? That they're not being offered. Judaism doesn't make sense to them for the most part. God, or the stories of the Bible, or the miracles, and even the holidays, in terms of so much of the ritual life and so much of the ideas and major text stories, etc. Doesn't seem to make sense to them. That's because the Jewish educators doesn't really make all that much sense to them either. I mean, they're excited about it, kind of emotionally. It makes sense to them. But if you really ask them, well, what do you mean by God? Or what do you mean by, is there meaning to everything in life? Do dreams come true? Do wishes come true? A cartoon that I shared with you in the timeline, together with a few other kinds of drawings and texts. I don't know if you've seen it yet. I think from the New Yorker magazine. A father reading to his child before bed, bedtime story. And then we are led to believe that they lived happily ever after. Well, I mean, I wouldn't share this with, young children, because it involves irony, and you have to know what irony is, and that comes a little later, in our development. But But I would write a story, if I'm writing a story for children, with this in mind. And then we're led to believe that they lived happily ever after. It can't happen again if no one drops the bomb. So that's reassurance. That's reassurance. That's appropriate for children. They should be reassured. It's also realistic. It's also not lying. I think, and this is, as I say, so critical for Janusz Korczak in all of his children's books and children's stories and his approach. I've called it education for realistic idealism.